Men, period. If you take too much folic acid, it will cause you to have prostate cancer. Let me repeat that again. Men,
Mm.
if you take too much folic acid, it will cause you to have it could cause you to have prostate cancer.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Brewer Report. I'm Stacey Brewer, and I'm here with my father, David Brewer. Be sure to, as always, to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're seeing us in other platforms, be sure to comment, follow, and interact with us. We're trying to build our community. So today we're going to talk about folic acid versus folate. And we're going to talk about what are the differences between the two. Now, what sparked this particular topic, if you will, was I was online and I saw a clip of Steve Harvey, and he was talking about how he cannot consume folic acid. And I just thought that was quite interesting. So that got us wanting to look deeper into it. So we'll talk about that more a little later during the show. But we're also going to talk about the benefits of folic acid or folate, and we're going to talk about the risk with the two. But let's really talk about what exactly is folic acid and what is folate. First, they are two forms of the vitamin B9. So let's get into this. So, Daddy, tell us more the differences between them. They're a part of B9, but what are the differences?
Right. First of all, let me just say this about B9. Uh, B9 is used to make red blood cells and DNA, and which is the genetic material in your cells. So that's, and we'll talk about some other things about it. So this is, for all points and purposes, B9 is essential to keep you alive, period.
Wow.
Okay. So the difference is folate is the natural version of B9 that's found in whole foods like green leafy vegetables, beans, citrus, greens, etc. So it's the greens and beans and G-bombs. Um, Folic acid, on the other hand, is the synthetic version that's used in supplements and fortified foods. Folic acid converts through the liver, whereas folate, because it's a food, converts through your intestines. And so there are some absorption issues with folate versus folic acid, which converts through your liver, and folate, which converts through your intestines. Uh, so folic acid is specifically around 85%. I mean, folic acid is in supplements and fortified foods. We'll talk more about that later. But 85% of folic acid is absorbed, while only 50% of naturally occurring folate is absorbed. Um, and so there's some things you can do to increase the absorption of folate. Obviously, eat folate-rich foods, and one of the richest versions is lentils and beans, but also and citrus fruit. So if you pair your folate-rich foods with vitamin C, that will enhance the absorption. You also have to avoid overcooking, and of course, take folate supplements. And yet, definitely have to limit alcohol intake. In fact, I've seen alcoholics, and one of the problems, some of the health problems that they manifest, not that I know all this about folate and B9, is because I've seen anemic alcoholics, I've seen all kind of folks, uh, alcoholics, and now I know why, because they uh, excessive consumption rather of alcohol affects your absorption of B9. You also have to avoid excessive caffeine too. So coffee drinkers, you have to kind of watch that as well.
Right. So again, it goes back to your favorite line, which is it's not what you eat, it's what.
You absorb. And
Yes.
one final piece is B9 doesn't accumulate in your body. Uh,
Interesting.
so you have to make sure that you're consuming it on a daily basis. So this is a daily one.
So it goes back to that G bombs diet. That's why that acronym really works because you're getting a lot of the foods that would have folate in it, like we said, beans and greens. And again, pair it with something citrus, vitamin C. Now, folate is also apparently not as stable as folic acid, right?
No, it's not. It breaks down in heat and light.
Right. That's why you can't overcook it. If you
Right.
if you are going to consume it, if you're going to consume folate, meaning get this B9 the natural way, if you overcook it, again, you're not going to absorb it as much, which is why a lot of people just end up taking the supplements, and we'll get into that a little later. So now let's talk about the benefits and the risk when it comes to folic acid versus folate. What are some of the benefits? Let's start with that first.
Well, obviously, the benefits is it's crucial for your DNA synthesis. That's your genetics. Okay, it reduces homocysteine levels, lowering heart disease and stroke risk. Supports
Wow.
healthy cell division and red blood cell production, which I just talked about. And so those are clearly some clear benefits. But the biggie is the birth defects. That's a biggie
Right.
because that's why the American dietary associations and all of the food industries started adding folic acid as a additive to foods, whether it was cereals, whether it was flour, all of these things that they started adding it to because they had to cut down on birth defects. And that's the real biggie in terms of folic acid.
Yeah, because I won't mention the actress's name because, even though they've openly spoken about it, but uh, they apparently did not take a supplement of folic acid when they were pregnant with their first child. And this child developed, what is it, spina bifida? Is that how you say it?
Yep, spina bifida. Hmm.
Yeah. And it was because, well, they feel because she did not consume enough folic acid or to get the B9, which is very interesting. But also another benefit we forgot to mention is it could help with hearing, B9.
Yes, it's slow hearing loss because of aging. You have to have B9 so you can hear
Wow.
better. So that was kind of a surprise. So I guess at 79, I better start really loading up so I can hear better.
Oh my goodness. We're going to add it to the smoothies.
No, I think that one of the things also is that you have to have it to keep your mind going. It's not, your ears and your hearing, all that stuff is connected to your brain. So you have to have B9 also to keep from getting dementia and Alzheimer's and all of those things. So it's all connected, if you will.
Absolutely. And it's about that red blood cell count and all that. You know, it, and we talked the other day, we talked about circulation as well too. So all that matters. Now,
Yes.
if you're not getting enough B9, what are the risks? We already talked about birth defects, but there's some other risks. Well, you have anemia, which is
Yes.
interesting.
Anemia is a biggie because
Yeah.
remember, B9 helps with red blood cell production. But it also keeps you from getting these super large, what they call megablast blood cells, which are these large red blood cells. They call it, and you end up with something called megaloblastic anemia. So that causes some serious problems in people. In other words, you have abnormally large red blood cells if you do not have enough B9.
Yeah, and I had anemia at one point, but for my version, it was more, I was prescribed more B12. But I guess it's all connected. I currently take a B vitamin complex, but I guess the key is B vitamins are very important.
Yes, and now that you mentioned B12, another reason why B9 is so important in the form of folic acid, or we're going to talk more about the best form versus folate, is that it will mask B12 deficiency if you don't have enough B9. And
Wow.
so you have to make sure that all that's interconnected, which is why a lot of companies give you the total supplement, the total B supplement with B9, B6, B12, all of those in one supplement. Okay. Um, and so we'll talk more about what supplement is better.
Right. Now, you already mentioned that not having enough could hurt cognitive or cause cognitive issues like dementia, depression, even. But
Yes.
there's also possibly a cancer risk, which is kind of complicated. There's more to the cancer risk. But in
Yeah, we have
general,
we'll get into the cancer because one version can exacerbate cancer and the other version protects you from cancer. So, uh, men, period. If you take too much folic acid, it will cause you to have prostate cancer. Let me repeat that again. Men,
mm,
if you take too much folic acid, it will cause you to have it could cause you to have prostate cancer. However, if you have folate, which is the more natural version of B9, and the best way to get it is if you when you go ahead and look at your top supplements, you don't see folic acid on men's vitamins in your top supplements. You see methylfolate. That is the more natural version of folate, which you will need to reduce your risk of prostate cancer and cancer. So that's this kind of catch 22. Folic acid on one side will exacerbate and cause you to have prostate cancer. And then methylfolate on the other side, or folate through your food, will reduce your risk of having prostate cancer.
that's why it's important to know the details. Uh, Too much of a good thing can be bad in terms of the folic acid side. Or really don't have it at maybe you're saying don't have it at all if you're a man.
Oh no.
Um, and so, uh, but let's get more into the men versus women. Now, women should supplement when it comes to B9. And of course, always consult your doctors. Let's be very clear, especially if you are a pregnant woman. But women should supplement, like I just said about the actress and not taking enough, and what it calls her daughter to have spina bifida. Um, but with women, they should take a supplement that has methylfolate. That's what
Yes.
the consensus
Yes.
is,
When you
right?
look at the top vitamins, whether it's Extend Life, whether it's Naturella, and you look at the actual B vitamin or B9, it's in the form of methylfolate or some form of methylfolate. It is not folic acid. It is methylfolate. Now, folic acid is in your fortified foods, and we'll talk a little bit more about Hispanic women in a minute. But it's really in your food that you see the folic acid, fortified foods, I'm sorry, like cereals, flour, all those fortified foods, which was mandated by the United States government because of all of the birth defects. And they found out the reason that there were birth defects is because of a lack of B9, or in this particular case, the best way to get it was folic acid through synthetic means because people were not getting enough in their diet.
Right, because you have fortified grains, like you're saying, and but if you are a woman, you can take the methylfolate type supplement, but also again, it's recommended to also get it through a whole food source. Again, eat that G Bombs diet, greens, beans, fruits, all those type of things. But we talked already about the men. Is there more about the men in terms of supplement?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Get it through your food. I know guys don't necessarily eat as many vegetables as they should, but clearly, if you just you know, lentils, 90%, a cup of
Wow.
lentils is 90% of your daily B9.
Well, I'm about to have
And
lentils
of course,
actually this
supplement.
week. I just made lentils this week as my prepared meals. So that's a good thing. I'll load up on my lentils. Now,
Right.
let's talk about Hispanic women who, as we've said in the past, Hispanic, what is it, the Hispanic paradox? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the Hispanic paradox. Now, there's another paradox with Hispanic women. They were having higher birth defects.
Right.
Okay, they were having higher birth defects during pregnancy. And what the research showed was they had lower folate levels. So what the FDA did, they allowed for voluntary folic acid fortification of corn masa flour, which the Hispanic community was using for, to make all of their tortillas and everything else. And that was in 2016. However, it didn't really work out as well as they thought.
Mm.
So now the problem is that they're trying to get Hispanic women to basically increase their supplements of folic acid or methylfolate. In what we recommend is methylfolate based on the research. And it's kind of ironic because, as we've said before, on the other side of the Hispanic paradox, they eat a lot of beans. Well, guess what? Beans have a lot of folate in it. But if you overcook them and do certain things with them, you're not going to get as much folate out of them.
Right. Like our
And
research
again,
said,
you
it's
have to
not as
have,
stable.
when we go to Chipotle and get those bowls, they squeeze some lemon lime juice on there. That's supposed to help you in terms of absorbing the folate. But I, you know, I obviously will henceforth, whenever I'm eating my G-bomb salad with my beans, I'm gonna definitely add more citrus to it. Although I always drink it with like hibiscus tea with lemon juice anyway. I always,
Exactly.
so just make sure that you're having citrus with your folate-rich foods, period.
Right. Citrus seems to be very important to a lot of these type of diets and
And
food
green tea.
combinations. Yeah, and food combinations. Yes.
Mhm.
Now let's get deeper into Steve Harvey. I remember during his interview, he talked about how folic acid is everywhere. Like when you go to the grocery store, and he was talking about how he has to avoid it because his body does not process it. So let's talk about what that means.
He has a condition called methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase, which is this enzyme and gene mutation. It's a gene mutation. And we're not going to go through, we'll just call it MTHFR. And they struggle to convert folic acid to B9. I mean, they can't convert it. So these individuals have to go again back to what we were recommending in the first place, and that's natural folate from food or the methylfolate supplement. And so, Brother Steve has got a role in that direction. That's all it is to it. Um, they did a study of 246 women who experienced recurrent miscarriages. It's another thing that this gene mutation will do. It will cause women to have miscarriages. So on Steve's side, he couldn't process folic acid, but for women, it gets even deeper. They were experiencing recurrent miscarriages, and it was linked to this particular gene mutation. And they found that administering folic acid along with low dose aspirin and some other enoxaparin was helpful therapy in helping prevent recurrent miscarriages. So if you have some friends who are out there who can't conceive, and in other words, they can't carry a baby and they're having a miscarriage, perhaps they need to talk to their doctors and obstetricians about their B vitamins, especially B9, and making sure that they are absorbing it.
That's why it's so important to get your blood work done so you know what your levels are.
Yes,
And then
absolutely.
you know your the science behind why you need certain levels. Because I know when you get your blood work done, it will say whether you're in a good range or not. But it's good to know what I think that can be more customized, if you will. Like certain individuals may need higher levels. I'm not a doctor, always talk to your doctor, but know what you need as a woman or know what you need as a man. And make sure your doctor understands that, understands your unique needs. So, that's very important.
Yeah, and the main thing is to make sure, even though you may be taking some supplement or food, whatever, you got to make sure you are absorbing it, and that's why we go back to all of those things that you need to do to make sure you are absorbing it. So you got a vitamin C and citrus fruits and vegetables, and I mean citrus fruits and citric acid. It's critical,
Yes, it is.
and make sure you and don't drink hardly. If you're pregnant and you're one of the ladies with this particular gene mutation, you definitely can't have any alcohol. That's out.
Don't drink it at all if you're pregnant, in my opinion.
Yes, that's out because it's going to block the absorption.
Yes. So, is there anything else you want to add to this discussion before we close out?
Now, this has been a good one because, yeah, we knew that folic acid slant B folate slant B9 is critical, but we didn't realize just how critical it is and how difficult sometimes it can be to manage it and absorb it. Um, the folic
Right, because
acid and prostate cancer was really kind of a surprise to me. I didn't realize it had such a deleterious effect. But then on the
right,
flip
because
side, folate keeps you from having prostate cancer, so it's crazy. But anyway, that's you have to know the nuances.
you have to know the nuances because, I know we take a lot of nutritional yeast, things like that. So I'm always seeing all the different B vitamins in these health foods, but I'll be honest, I don't always know what the benefit of each is. So, like you said, this was a good discussion to really know more of the nuance, like you just said, of this particular B vitamin, B9, and how you can better absorb it. And before we close out, we want to mention Dr. Furman. He had some things to say about folate and folic acid. What were some of the things he had to say?
Well, first of all, he says avoid high dose folic acid. And that's clearly talking to the men. He says read labels carefully. So even in some food sources for men, even when you start looking at stuff like nutritional yeast and grains and cereals, etc. He says, read labels carefully because you cannot afford to have too much folic acid in your system because of the prostate cancer risk. Um, but if you're taking a supplement, obviously you want to make sure you're taking methylfolate. So he says focus on whole food sources. So try to get it through your beans and your greens, etc. But you also have to read labels carefully of the other foods you're eating. And so, because you clearly got to make sure you don't have too much folic acid in your system.
Yes, and that's the key. Just know what you are consuming, read your labels. That is very important. So that's it for our show for today. I feel like we really clearly established the differences between folate and folic acid. As we said, they are not created equal, clearly. That's very important to know. Now, when it comes to B9, like we said, make sure you're getting the right kind of supplement for the men. You want to get that methylfolate and even for the women. And you want to try to consume it through whole foods like lentils and other beans and fortified foods. But as we said, folate is not as stable as a food. So you want to pair it with a citrus like a vitamin C. That is also key. And we talked about the benefits. They benefit your heart, they benefit your mind. They may, decrease your risk of certain cognitive issues, including depression, and it may reduce the risk of birth defects. My dad talked about the history of that, why we have fortified foods. So it's just, it's a very important vitamin, but there are risks. So always talk to your doctors, know your levels, get your blood work done. and just know the importance of this B9 vitamin. But it's looking like folate, methylfolate, perhaps is the way. Any other thoughts, Daddy?
No, just and the cancer risk, folate, it helps you fight cancer. Folic acid, if you're a man, can cause you to have prostate cancer. So, I mean, that's a biggie. And that's why Dr. Furman said, read your labels carefully.
Yeah, that is a biggie. Well, that's our show for today. As always, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Continue to help us build this community. If you're listening to us on other platforms, be sure to comment and follow or find us on other social media platforms. We are here for you. This is about if you have any questions, put them in the comment section. We read the comments and we will respond. We are here for you. And in the future, we will be having our website up and a newsletter up and other exciting things to better connect with our community. But thank you as always. And until next time, I'm Stacey Brewer, and you just heard from my father, David Brewer, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.